Hey, Walter Sorrells back with another Knife Making Friday 5. Today I'm going to show some tools that I bought recently and talk about some strategies for buying good tools without breaking the bank. So last week I was talking about the importance of buying really good tools. Now, the problem with buying good tools, of course, is they tend to be pretty expensive. So over the past couple weeks, I've bought a whole bunch of measuring tools. So I'm a knife maker, not a machinist, but over time I've accumulated more and more machine tools. And the whole deal with machine tools is that if you don't have good measuring devices to know what you're doing with those tools, you're not going to be able to achieve the sort of precision that the tools are capable of. So buying measuring tools is an important thing. So I'm going to use this as sort of a little jumping off point to talk about, some strategies for buying tools without breaking the bank. So before we take a little tour of some of the tools that I've bought recently, the specific content of these tools is not so important. The main point that I'm going to show you here is, and I bought all these on eBay, but the main point that I am going to make here is that if you look in a reasonably disciplined way for very specific kinds of tools, stick to high quality tools, to sellers who seem to have a good track record of delivering what they promise and so forth, you can really spend kind of pennies on the dollar to accumulate good stuff for not terribly much money. So here's my haul. These are all little measuring devices made by Brown & Sharp or Starrett. Those are both companies that have been making measuring devices for at least 100 years. Those are really established companies that make really high quality measuring devices. All of these are vintage, back when those companies were really at the height of their powers. Just really high quality stuff. Despite the fact that some of these are old, they clearly haven't been ever used. So most of these things were in fantastic condition when I received them. A couple of them had to be cleaned up, but really no big deal. A little oiling and they're really just right back to new. So I've got a Brown & Sharp micrometer here measuring down to 0.010 of an inch. As far as I can tell, the thing's barely ever been used. Action's smooth. It's all still zeroed correctly. Everything seems perfect. The ratchet works great. Just couldn't be better. Starrett rules. These are precision rules, what they call tempered, which means they're basically little thin flexible rules, and they measure down to 0.64 of an inch. I got a little set of telescoping gauges. They come with a handle. The handle's kind of cheap, but the gauge parts themselves are great. They're milled steel, little spring inside. You measure the bore of pipe or holes or whatever, and then screw down this little nut that locks it, and then you can measure with calipers and see exactly what that internal diameter is. A couple pairs of Brown & Sharp dividers, 3-inch and 6-inch. Again, these are quite old, but the springs are all great. Everything's in perfect condition. Dividers are great tools, useful for a ton of things in the knife making shop. So here are a couple little Starrett adjustable parallels. Of everything that I bought, these are probably the only things that I overpaid for a little bit. I still paid under half of what they would cost new. They'll need a little oiling and TLC, but they work just fine. So all told, I paid $156 for all of these, which might sound like a fair amount if you haven't priced top quality measuring tools. But if you bought all this stuff new, my guesstimate is that you'd pay about $500 to $550. So that's about 30% of the new cost of this, $300 in savings. Can't beat that with a stick. Alright, so just to wrap it up, what I was showing here were some very specific kinds of tools, measuring tools, and I bought them all on eBay. But there are other places that you can go to buy good tools, estate sales, Craigslist, garage sales. Sometimes there are even, big swap meet type places that sort of specialize in tools. And, in some of those kinds of situations, you can actually save a lot more money than you can on eBay. The thing about eBay, of course, is that you're sort of competing with everybody in the world, and so it's a reasonably efficient marketplace. But if you go to an estate sale and see some old anvil that's been sitting there for 75 years in somebody's shed, you might be able to basically steal that, buy something that would cost you $700 or $800 new for $20. There are a couple things that I would say are particularly important if you're going to buy used tools. The first thing is be disciplined. Know what you're after instead of just kind of charging in and just buying things willy-nilly. Also, make sure that you have some sense of what kind of prices these things would have new. And that way you're not going to, spend close to what you would be spending already on a new product. Sticking to premium brands, really highly recognized manufacturers is always going to be helpful. It doesn't guarantee you that you're going to get things in working order, and frankly, sometimes you're going to buy a stinker every now and then. But that's kind of the price of doing it this way, and frankly, it's kind of part of the fun of it too, is jockeying around hoping to buy that perfect, pristine thing for pennies on the dollar. So overall message here, a lot of people worry about trying to start up the hobby of knife making, that they just are not going to be able to afford to get all the tools. I don't know what your budget is. Of course, everybody's is different. But, if you are disciplined, and if you are careful, and if you do your research and try and figure out exactly what you need, you can actually get out there and accumulate a lot of high quality tools without spending too much money. All right, see you next week. Thanks for watching, guys. If you feel like you got something out of this video, don't forget to subscribe. Also, click on the link to Patreon for a great way to give back to the channel. Plus, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Links in the description. If you want something sharp and pointy, maybe a gift for yourself or one of the cooler people in your life, check out my Tactics Armory website and pick up one of our tactical or outdoor knives. And finally, if you want to learn to make Hamones or Japanese swords, check out WalterSorrellsBlades.com, where you can find videos about how I make Hamones, as well as forging, mounting, polishing, and fittings for Japanese swords. Thanks, and see you soon.